Once you understand how a petrol station in Kenya actually works, the next thing you start to notice is that the system does not behave the same way everywhere. The structure looks similar on the surface. You still see the same Shell branding, the same forecourt layout, and the same promise of quality and consistency. But once you move across East Africa, the pressure points shift. And those small shifts are where the real story is. Let's start with Kenya. Kenya has one of the most structured and predictable fuel markets in the region. Prices are regulated monthly by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and that creates a level of stability. Dealers know what margins they are working with. They can plan, and they can project cash flow with some level of confidence. Now that does not mean that the business is easy. The margins are still tight and the competition is aggressive, especially in urban areas like Nairobi. But at least the system is clear. Now let's go to Uganda. The first thing that changes is pricing control. Uganda does not fix fuel prices in the same way Kenya does. The market is more liberalized. Prices move based on global oil costs, currency fluctuations, and individual company strategies. At first, that sounds like freedom. It sounds like an opportunity to make more money. But in reality, it introduces a different kind of pressure because now pricing becomes a weapon. One station can drop prices slightly to attract more traffic, another responds, then another. Before you know it, margins start shrinking not because of regulation, because of competition. So instead of stability, you get volatility. Dealers in Uganda are not just managing volume and costs. They are constantly adjusting to price movements that can change quickly. Planning becomes harder and predicting revenue becomes less certain. When the fuel prices swing, the same risk that we talked about earlier, it becomes sharper. You can buy stock at one price and be forced by the market to sell at a lower one. Now add currency pressure. Most fuel in the region is imported and paid for in dollars. If the local currency weakens, the cost of fuel rises immediately. That pressure moves down the chain and the dealer feels it directly. So even when volumes are good, profitability can still be unstable. Let's now go to Tanzania. Here, the system tightens again, but in a different way. Tanzania also regulates fuel prices, but the structure around margins and operations can be stricter. The Energy and Water Utilities Regulatory Authority, it plays a strong role in setting prices and overseeing the sector. Margins are controlled, just like in Kenya, but operational challenges can be heavier depending on location. Logistics can be more complex, distances between supply points and stations, they can increase costs, and infrastructure differences start to matter more. So while the pricing system may look stable on paper, the cost side of the business becomes more demanding. Now let's compare the three, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. In Kenya, the challenge is efficiency. You are working within a structured system with fixed margins, so success comes from how well you manage volume, costs, and non-fuel income. In Uganda, the challenge is control. Prices move, competition reacts, and the dealer has to stay alert at all times. You can win more, but you can also lose faster. In Tanzania, the challenge is balance. Margins are controlled, but operational realities can quietly eat into the profit if not managed carefully. Across all three, one thing is constant. Fuel alone is never enough. The smartest operators in all these markets, they're not thinking like fuel sellers, they are thinking like retailers. They invest in better shops, better service, and better product selection. They understand their location, their customers, and their spending habits. A station near a highway, it will behave differently from the one inside a residential area. One near a commercial hub, it will attract a different kind of customer compared to the one along a long-distance transport route. So the winning strategy is never one size fits all. It's always adapted. And this is where the Shell system becomes interesting again. Because while the external environments differ, the internal standards remain consistent. Through companies like Vivo Energy, branding, quality control, and operational guidelines, those are maintained across the countries. So you have a situation where the outside world is constantly changing, but the internal system is designed to stay stable. That balance is what allows the brand to scale across different economies without completely breaking under pressure. But it also means that local operators have to be sharper. Because they're not just running a station, they're literally translating a global system into a local reality. And that's not easy. Because at the end of the day, whether you're in Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, or Kampala, the rules of survival are the same. You need volume, you need control costs, you need strong non-fuel income, and you need to understand your customer better than the station across the road. If you miss any of those, the numbers can stop making sense very quickly. And once the numbers stop making sense in this business, recovery is not easy. By the time you understand how a single petrol station works, it's easy to think that the system is stable. Fuel comes in, cars come in, money flows out, it feels predictable. But the truth is, This entire system has been under pressure for decades. And that pressure is not coming from one place. It's coming from governments, from environmental movements, from financial markets, and from a simple question that no one in this industry can ignore anymore. What happens when the world starts moving away from fuel? To understand that, let's zoom out from the station and look at the company behind it. Shell PLC is one of the largest energy companies in the world. It's built on oil and gas. That scale brings power, but it also brings scrutiny. For years, Shell has been at the center of environmental debates. One of the most well-known cases happened in Nigeria, in the Niger Delta. Oil spills, pollution, and long-running disputes with local communities, it created global attention. Activists, governments, and courts, they began asking serious questions about responsibility, accountability, and long-term environmental damage. At the same time, pressure started building in Europe. In 2021, a Dutch court ruled that Shell had to reduce its carbon emissions significantly. And this was not a suggestion, it was a legal obligation. The case marked a turning point because it showed that oil companies were no longer only dealing with market forces. They were now dealing with legal pressure tied directly to climate change. So now you have a company that built its empire on fuel being told to move away from it. That creates a tension that flows all the way to the petrol station. Because the station still depends on fuel. The cars still need petrol and diesel. You know, the daily business has not changed, but the long-term direction is shifting. So what does Shell do? It starts repositioning, and it's repositioning deliberately. You begin to see investment in cleaner fuels. Gas becomes more important, then electricity enters the conversation. Electric vehicle charging stations, they start appearing in some markets. Slowly at first, then more consistently. Now imagine what that means for the traditional station. A petrol station is designed around speed. You drive in, fuel in minutes, and leave. An electric vehicle doesn't work like that. Charging takes time. That changes behavior. If a customer is going to stay longer, the station must offer more. Better food, better seating, better services. So the station begins to evolve from a quick shop into something closer to a mini destination. And suddenly, everything that we talked about earlier becomes even more important. The shop is no longer secondary. It's central. Because if people stay longer, they spend more time deciding what else to buy. Now let's come back to East Africa. The shift to electric vehicles is slower here compared to Europe or China. Infrastructure is still developing, costs are still high, and fuel demand remains strong. So on the surface, it looks like nothing is changing. But underneath, let me tell you guys, the same pressures exist. Governments are thinking about cleaner energy, cities are thinking about pollution, global companies like Shell, they are adjusting their long-term strategies. And all of that, it will eventually reach the local station. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come. This is just Katalina, and I'll see you guys in the next business breakdown. If you're blessed enough to support the channel, you can use the till, it's right here, and I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video.